The question in my mind is, how do you create or relaunch a highly profitable and successful 6 to 7 figure business? With so much conflicting advice about the best ways to start and grow your business, how do you get it right the first time? I want to help entrepreneurs make a real difference and navigate the messy world of startup or relaunch. My name is John North, and this is the Startup Secrets for Entrepreneur Show. Join me today when we dig deep with our guests and get you the best blueprint so you can fast track your own business. This episode is sponsored by Evolvepreneur.app, your all-in-one online business system. Make sure you subscribe for future episodes at startupsecrets.show right now. So let's get into today's episode.
Hi, my name is Ryan Lavelle. I've just appeared on the Startup Secrets show with John, and we had a good talk about where the world is going in the context of blockchain, cryptocurrency, energy, and disruption. You should check it out.
Today's special guest is Ryan Lavelle, who's a technology entrepreneur. So that's an interesting kind of mix, but that's the way it is nowadays. So welcome, Ryan, to the show.
Welcome, John. It's a pleasure to be here.
Cool. So you're currently in South Africa, I understand. So and you sort of move around a bit. So obviously you see a lot of the differences in countries and things like that over time. So I think that's probably good for an entrepreneur. I think it gives them a much better understanding of what's going on in the world.
No, absolutely. I do have quite a diverse background. My start in life was a software programmer. Always had a great passion for code. And as a kid, I used to write games, so I started really working very, very young, like around 14.
Right.
And I'd sit very, very late at night in my best buddy's bedroom coding away. And so that was my passion. But, just because of the nature of my education, I didn't get all the right qualifications to go into computer science. So I took my second choice, which was electronic engineering. And, part of the course was very kind of code, digital software. But a lot of it was heavy, power systems and circuits and digital stuff.
How stuff works.
How stuff works. So I have an engineering mind,
Mm-hmm.
and that sort of carried me well into my future software career. Started out working at Paribas, 20 years in banking, and I went through a variety of different roles, programming, project management, consulting, freelance consulting, until I encountered blockchain. And like a lot of people, I got the bug, and the rest is history.
Right. Yeah, I was in banking for 12 years, but I was more client facing and lending and stuff like that. So there's so many different avenues of banking. I was nearly ended up in one of the banking data centers. I'm glad I didn't probably go there. That would have probably been a fairly boring job, I reckon. So
I was always working in front office with traders and the cutting edge people,
Yeah.
sort of trying to keep them under control.
Which I don't think ever works anyway, right? So, what have you been doing lately? What sort of things are you involved in to kind of get you under the technology?
Yeah, so I've been through a bit of a tortuous journey the last few years. To be honest, the sort of first foray into startup life was a company called Lancor Scientific, which was I was not a founder of that business. I joined quite late in the process. And they had developed a very exciting, revolutionary new technology for cancer screening. It was kind of a miniature device that could in principle scan for multiple cancers in almost real time, like under a minute. Diagnostic grade accuracy. And this was revolutionary, game-changing potential. But the commercial setup of the company was very complex. There were a lot of players involved, a lot of let's say Byzantine relationships with inventors and licensing the IP that made the tech possible, and let's say things just didn't work out with that company, sadly. But I learned a lot. I learned a lot about emerging technologies. We built our own blockchain platform. We started to build a blockchain platform for the cancer screening service. So I learned about tokenomics, and I started to marry the concepts of what became Mpowa. Basically, is the notion that we can use these technologies to make hitherto, should we say, intractable technologies and business models possible and feasible that weren't before. So Mpowa is what I'm doing now. My own company, which I founded in 2019, with one of the guys that was also involved in Lancor. We started Mpowa, and it's been through a 2-year labor of love, let's call it, to get where we're about to be.
I think it has to be in technology. So, I mean, I think one of the things that people don't quite understand with blockchain is that that's not crypto, right?
No.
It's a game changer in some respects. And I think part of maybe you can explain it better than I can, but basically it's a very secure way of communicating between essentially two people or two pieces of information, right? So it's a really game changer in so many different businesses and like wearable technology and all sorts of things, isn't it?
Yes. Well, DLT, distributed ledger technology, aka blockchain, is really it's indeed a new way of storing and exchanging information in a trustless environment. So, the fact that the first well-known use case for blockchain it happened to be money, Bitcoin, isn't
a good place to start, right? If you can protect money.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, and it is still, it's proven to be robust and, it works. So, to the extent that, central banks are now copying the technology and using it to, having fought it, they say that all knowledge passes through 3 phases. It's very applicable in this case, right? First, it's ignored, then it's violently opposed, then it's accepted. And
then accepted as normal. Right, so, yeah. And I mean, they reckon. I mean, I watched a documentary a couple of weeks ago actually, and it opened my eyes up because half the stuff I didn't even know, like explaining crypto and blockchain and how the world's going to change. And one of the things it was talking about was that the internet could become completely different in terms of the way it works, because rather than having this internet the way it is now, it's a private internet almost. You're communicating between centralized sources, and they reckon the likes of Amazon, Facebook, all those guys could suffer dramatically from it because they could be cut out of the picture altogether.
Let's say that we're having a bit of a tussle with big tech, and that's really what the crypto sphere is about for me personally. What it means is it's a technology-driven struggle. It's the same struggle we've been going through, for thousands of years actually as a civilization. It's manifesting in different ways, right?
Yep.
So the political struggle for sovereignty and for independence and human rights, it's the same battle we see going on in cryptography, the same battle we see going on in technology with blockchain and money.
Because I think the biggest problem with the internet was that originally it was opened up to be accessible to everybody, and anybody could be anybody. But the reality is that there's only one eBay, there's only one Facebook, there's only one Amazon. It's not like there's a secondary competitor in any of those markets. So they've owned those markets so substantially that it's not a free market in that situation anymore, and those big players won't let people come into that market anyway, right?
That's how it's been so far. We hope as Mpowa to lead the charge on a bit of disruption in different domains across many sort of aspects of this. A lot of people have been building pillars. The foundations have been building up. But we're excited about where things are going. We see decentralized finance is starting to really have an impact. Disrupting the banks. Fintech, and now we're starting to see this happening in other let's say industry monopolies like energy, water, purification. We're seeing a mass scale decentralization, democratization of multiple industries, which is being enabled by the sort of fine-grained control and monitoring and oversight that you can do with these platforms.
So the reality is like that means that particular, let's say electricity is safer because it's less prone to hacking, right? You can't get in there as easily as you could perhaps today and cause havoc.
Yes, I think grid infrastructures in general are a 19th century idea, and it's a similar mindset you see with banking. Centralize everything. Well, actually, a more resilient, more stable, more democratic, and therefore freer, and safer model is decentralized. Mini grids, microgrids, where people take care of their own communities, their own needs, through services like ours, and there are many other people doing things with solar and different solutions. But that's essentially the concept. Is give power back to people to solve their own problems, through these platforms.
Right. And I mean, the funny thing about it is when people talk about the cloud, it's just someone else's computer. Like they see it, they're sort of like they want to make you feel like it's somewhere in the cloud, but the reality is nothing in the cloud. It's on someone else's computer. That's all you're storing that data on someone else's computer, right? It's not floating around.
And that's sort of the concept behind Web3. I don't know if you've looked at the Web3 ecosystem and the initiative, Tim Berners-Lee, and what they're trying to do to re-architect the internet. Yeah, that's very much in that paradigm.
Yeah.
And Power is very much aligned with that paradigm. So we are working with that, with that ecosystem, and also their technology, the substrate chain.
Yeah. So where do you see it going in the next, say, 10 years? Or do you see this as, obviously, anybody can kind of tell, like you said, suddenly it's become adopted. If banks are spending money on it, then you can see that. And will they try and control it somehow, like they could try and control everything else? That's going to be the game, isn't it?
They try to use their financial power and their political power to, to ban anyone and anything that's not doing anything they don't control. And the whole point of this technology and this revolution is to do the opposite. It's to stop centralized control. This is the essence of a decentralized autonomous organization. A DAO is that it's to build an automated company that is running as a network with a sort of governance around it and a transparency that is kind of new in the world. And that's what attracts me. Is the kind of end game of this struggle is to implement DAOs for everything. So we talk about healthcare, we talk about medical. AI in particular must be run through DAOs because it's so threatening to society. So we must have transparency and governance and constitutions and voting on what these systems are doing, because they're in the public interest.
And I guess it's a bit like open source, right? I mean, the funny thing about where you find this kind of scenario where there's have all this privacy conversations, all that sort of stuff, is that open source software is probably the most reliable and the safest, because the reality is everybody has access to it, so they can, it's much more robust than a closed system where you don't have that oversight really. You do, no one's testing it to the extent of that, is it?
Absolutely, and to the extent we can, we embrace those principles too. We'll work with open source where and when we can. Obviously, we're a business, so the parts of our product and our technology stack that have to stay proprietary.
Absolutely. I mean, you've got to keep your secret sauce, right?
IP. You can't raise funding otherwise.
Otherwise, you steal it.
Money, sadly, still we're not living in a utopia yet. So
that's right.
But it's always it's an 80-20 rule, isn't it? Better to work with as much as you can where the community is maintaining it and building it, because that gives you a competitive advantage anyway. Yeah,
probably more nimble. So the modern entrepreneur now, where do they see themselves in this blockchain thing? Where's the opportunities for the the run of the mill kind of entrepreneur? How do they get?
Yeah, I think there are masses of opportunities. I think DeFi in particular has really taken off. So I don't know if you heard of the London Real initiative of.
I've seen a little bit of it.
Ryan. Yeah, so it's becoming mass market. So there's a lot of companies starting up in that space, especially in the DeFi space right now. But the next wave is going to be, as I said, the utilities and stuff that Mpowa is starting to tickle around with energy. And I think the first thing to do in blockchain is dip your toe. It's to understand the ecosystem. It's trade it. Go lose some money, because everyone does. Make some mistakes.
Go buy some crypto and see how it goes.
Okay. Got that wrong. Yeah. So you got to learn by doing, right? Because it is still quite new. But research, learn. Sign up to newsletters, buy a few tokens. Attend events. There's so much going on in the crypto sphere, online, in the media, and there's new developments all the time. So. Yeah, just get involved. That's my advice. Like everything in life, learn by doing.
Do you want simple and effective ways to get started that don't cost a fortune in time and money? Discover the best steps for each strategy we teach and the most important areas to focus on, and even to connect with your best customers and grow an online community. Grab your free copy of Startup Secrets for Entrepreneurs at startupsecrets.show. Yeah, and it makes sense. Like, start now, and so by the time you get to a point where you may want to try something, at least you've got some background knowledge about it. You can understand how it works, and not realise that blockchain isn't necessarily crypto. It's just the technology that underlines it. So, as you said, it's got some huge potential.
Yeah, there's lots of toolkits out there. There's lots of online, free learning materials that people can pick up and play with stuff and create smart contracts. And you know, people are often intimidated by software and coding, and I don't really understand that because I'm a kind of perennial tinkerer, so I've always had either a screwdriver or a keyboard.
Pull something apart, right?
Just do it. It's not. And you can create something beautiful and sit with your kids. Teach your kids how to do it, and through doing that, through sitting with your kids and teaching them something, you learn something. It makes it fun.
All right, makes sense. Cool. So what's in store for you for next year? Like, what's the plan?
I've got some crazy plans.
Okay, let's hear them then.
We could disclose some of it because it's still work in progress. But I'm hopeful and optimistic that we do it. Basically, where we stand now, we've just joined the X Prize. I don't know if you've heard of that competition. It's set up by the Musk Foundation to see who can be the winners in decarbonisation. We've created, we've kind of branded our entire proposition, our platform, as called Decarbonizer, which is a SaaS platform specifically designed to allow both, Joe Public investors and the big corporates, to get involved, working together, right? Not fighting each other anymore.
Right. Okay.
We've all got a collective
That's like a plan.
problem. We've got to solve the problem together.
Yes.
That we've created it together, so we're going to have to solve it together. So the idea is we're creating a kind of gamified, competitive platform which enables companies and consumers to work together, funding projects which have an underlying essence, a theme around decarbonisation and SDG impact. Cleaning up the environment, implementing new technologies at scale. So this is what we're working on as a company and a product. But let's say the launch strategy around this is quite ambitious because we want to do things at scale. So I've got a number of token launches planned, fund our grand vision. We're at the stage of MVP now, and then the plan is end of this year. We want to launch a festival called the Reboot Festival, which will be here in Cape Town. I'm in discussions about it now with the City of Cape Town and the local security company that run public events to get this off the ground. The idea is kind of a trade show, so we have a lot of technology companies presenting their solutions, and some of them are really quite amazing. And then we'll have presentations and talks, and be a cultural event during the day, and in the evening it will be just a full-on party and just. We try and cheer everyone up a bit because it's been a hard time, hasn't it? COVID.
Yeah, I think that people need a massive party to get things moving, particularly for next year. I reckon it's like 2 years of this is enough.
That's it. So this idea was kind of, channeled to me a couple of years ago. I had a dream basically at 4 o'clock in the morning.
Yep.
At the first kickoff of the company, I was in Spain with my team, and I just woke up in the night with this idea. I've got to do this. The only way we can tell the world about what they need to do to get on board this transition is to do big events like this. So that was where the idea
attention. Attract attention at scale. Yeah, makes sense. And I think, as you said, if you've got the opportunity to be able to change the way things work, that things operate for the better, that's a good thing. So in terms of blockchain versus cryptocurrency, is there, there's a lot of stuff about the power that like crypto has to use and the environmental damage of, processing. Is blockchain like that, or is that much more an efficient way of doing things?
It is. It is an artifact of the way the technology works. So, you got to think of civilizations of going in stages of evolution, right? Platforms. We had coal power. We used to chop trees, and then we went to coal, then we went to oil, then we went to nuclear. So this steady increase in the energy flux density of a society is what's underlying progress. So you can't fight back against progress. We have to solve the problems that come with it.
Yes.
So in this,
you just start turning off power stations, right? Which they do.
This is what some people want. The radical environmentalists will have us back in that kind of situation, so-called, what do you call it? Like some kind of equilibrium that doesn't really exist. It's artificial.
Yeah.
So we've got to go forward, and the way forward is to decarbonize the crypto industry, right? So. The Energy Web Foundation, who we're working with and partnering with in the background, we're just about to launch a proof of concept with them to launch a green token, which we can prove now is being mined on green infrastructure.
Gotcha.
Of which our first pilot project is going to be here in Port Elizabeth, South Africa. We're going to build a data center with local partners that is running on the latest and greatest green energy systems. I can't fully disclose those technologies yet because they're so disruptive. But let's just say it's going to be a game changer for the world when it comes out. So very excited about that.
And I think at the end of the day, like the big players in the marketplace, supposed the people that create, sell coal and have power stations and all that sort of stuff, they have to be worried that, people are starting to run their own essential power stations and their own own businesses because they've got the roof space for solar for starters. So it's kind of like you think they got the writing on the wall, but I think in most industries it's the same thing. Those incumbents don't see it coming. It's someone out from the outside. Look at the.
It's like the same as it was in banking, right? I mean, so much dodginess going on. Everyone's complaining about crypto being money laundering and corrupt and blah blah. But you look at where most money laundering goes on; it's in the main banking system.
Yeah, the banks are doing it. I mean, in Australia, I think Westpac got fined 1 million transactions for money laundering. So a major bank, they weren't doing it, but they failed to notice it.
Well, I was working at ING for 4 years as a consultant, and just after I left, they got fined 750 million. Now, I'm not taking responsibility for that. Yes.
No, not now.
And ING is a good bank. It's one of the good ones. So it's systemic, and the issue is because there's a lack of transparency. Yeah. So we have to, these industries have to look in the mirror, and when people like us come along and disrupt, they have to see that as an opportunity to change the way they're doing business and work with us, not against us.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, as you say, it just takes some time to realise that you can't hold back the tide. So sooner or later they're going to get caught by it. So they have to sort of start changing, or they lose, they drown.
Yeah, well, I was just literally 2 days ago reading the story about Blockbuster and Netflix, and there was a point at which Blockbuster could have merged with Netflix, and they could have joined forces, right? Yep. And gone on to be, and survived and been an even better company, right? Yeah. But they were arrogant and they said no, and they turned it down, and Netflix wiped them out.
And apparently, I watched a couple of specials on that, and one of them was apparently Netflix was on the verge of collapse because Blockbuster had decided to copy them, and they were basically doing online rentals and stuff like that, but they didn't quite understand how to do it. And then Blockbuster decided to go back to retail. So they had a new CEO. They fired the founding CEO and they brought a new CEO in, and they said, let's go back to retail. Retail is the future, and stopped the online business. And Netflix was just about a month off bankruptcy. And it's almost so close. They were trying to drive them out of bankruptcy, to drive them into bankruptcy. They didn't think they'd won, and then they changed direction, and it saved Netflix. And now to this day, they've lost because they thought retail.
It's kind of like, the car crash test, example of what's wrong with capitalism, what's wrong with our model, right? Yeah. Why do companies do this to each other? But we're both, got a role to play in the market. There should be fair competition, and we should work together to the common good. I'm not trying to be socialist, but that's bad, because now you've lost the creativity of two companies, and what happened to all the employees of Blockbuster? They probably went off and did something else.
Yeah, exactly. And I think there's an opportunity, but I think egos have a lot to play with that, and I think they get to a point. Apparently, I think in the Netflix story, I'm not sure which way around it was, but I think the Blockbuster CEO sent the Netflix CEO a kitchen sink, a physical chip-image kitchen sink, and said, we're going to throw everything at you, including the kitchen sink. Yeah. So that was a declaration of war.
Women in business, I'm not saying that women are going to solve everything, but perhaps a little bit less ego somewhere.
And aggression might work, yeah, exactly. So, and I think in some respects, when you look globally about some of the countries that have managed to get through the pandemic, you find that some of the countries that women leaders were running the show, they were a lot more even-handed, and I think came out of it better than some of the male sort of egos where they kind of just tried to ignore it or tried to cover it up. In some
it's hard for a male entrepreneur to admit that, but I can
I think so. So how does people get in touch with you and they want to sort of learn a bit more about you and what you do? What's the best place to go?
Certainly. So our company website is www.mpowa.io. We also have a sister site called Decarbonizer with a Z. .app. Yeah. And I'm freely available on LinkedIn, Ryan Lavelle. Come find me, connect. I'm an open door, so I'd love to talk to any of your listeners.
Fantastic. So really appreciate you coming on and talking about this the complex world of blockchain and crypto and stuff like that. And I'm sure that and maybe in a couple of years' time we'll have a more interesting story to talk about. So really appreciate your time, Ryan, to coming, and we'll put up the links on our chat as well in terms of what we've got, and people can have a look at it. So thank you so much.
Thank you, John, and best wishes to everyone, and especially your listeners and viewers. Stay happy and healthy.
That's a wrap on another awesome episode for the Startup Secret Show for entrepreneurs. Just before you go, if you like this episode, we'd be very grateful for a 5-star review. Please also consider recommending the show to a friend or two. Make sure you subscribe for future episodes at startupsecrets.show right now. Until next time, if you're an entrepreneur, make a start on your next great business idea today.